Tom Cruise is a bold movie star, so it's hard to imagine him being banned from anything, especially The Tonight Show, but this shocking turn of events changed everything. How could Tom have done something that made the managers and show host lose their cool? This movie goes into great detail about the shocking event that made the news, stunned fans, and got Tom Cruise kept from one of the biggest shows in America. Find the story that hasn't been told. Early life and adulthood. Thomas Cruise Mapother IV, better known as Tom Cruise, was born in Syracuse, New York, on July 3, 1962, just before Independence Day. Tom was the second of four children. Joseph Thomas Cruise Mapother III was his dad and Mary Lee was his mom. Was a teacher for kids with special needs. Both of them were born and raised in Louisville, Kentucky. Their family had English, German, and Irish roots. Tom had a hard childhood because his family was close to being poor. In a strict Catholic home he grew up, and his relationship with his father was complicated. He called his dad a chaos merchant, a bully, and someone who would often lash out at his kids. After Tom talked about how his dad's unexpected behavior taught him a hard lesson about trust and safety. He said that his dad would often make him feel safe but then cheat on him. Because his dad had a hard time making ends meet, the family moved around a lot in the US and Canada, which made it hard for Tom to calm down. His 8 years old, he was already sick of being poor, so he did a bunch of odd jobs to make money. He gave newspapers to people, mowed lawns, raked leaves, and even sold pictures at Christmas and Easter. Tom went to about 15 different schools over the course of 14 years because his family moved around a lot. Tom's dad got a job as a counselor with the Canadian Armed Forces in 1971, which led to move to Beacon Hill, Ottawa, with their whole family. Tom learned that he loved playing while he was a kid in Ontario, Canada, where he went to Robert Hopkins Public School. Tom really got into school plays after his drama teacher, George Steinberg, pushed him to do so. He even did an unplanned piece with his classmates at the Carleton Elementary School Drama Festival. The organizers gave them high marks. The performance is a classic ensemble piece, a sign of how talented Tom is becoming. Soon after, while Tom was in the 6th grade at Ottawa's Henry Munro Middle School, things changed. His mother made the hard choice to leave his father and move back to the U.S. with Tom and his brothers. She got married again in 1978. A man named Jack South, who started over for the family. A few years later, in 1984, Tom's father died after a long battle with cancer. During this time, Tom looked into another road. He won a scholarship to attend a Franciscan seminary in Cincinnati, Ohio, where he thought about becoming a Catholic priest. But his love of acting and some rebelliousness as a teen got the best of him, and he was finally kicked out of school for drinking. Tom stopped studying religion when he realized that his true calling was somewhere else. He then set his goals on becoming an actor. This was an important turning point in his life. He began the way that would eventually make him famous all over the world. During his teen years, Tom couldn't keep his mind on one thing because he was restless, full of energy, and often angry. He was a center on his high school football team, but he was kicked off because he was drunk before a game. He changed jobs a lot as a teen because he got bored with routine work so fast. He never stayed in one place for long. He quickly got used to new places and even picked up new accents as he moved around a lot, going to places like Canada, Kentucky, Jersey, and St. Louis. Tom's last school was. He took part in more school shows at Glen Ridge High School in New Jersey. He played the lead in a production of Guys and Dolls and finished in 1980. After years of constant change, he finally felt like things were getting stable. And Tom Cruise's career could have begun in a more exciting way. How did he get to be so well known? Let's look more closely. When Cruise finished high school, she began her career as an actress. Tom Cruise quit school to follow his dream of becoming an actress. Because his mom and stepdad were behind him, he went to New York City to try to make it big. In the beginning, things were hard. Tom had to work as a waiter to make ends meet. His goal was to make it as an actor, so whenever he had a free time, he went to auditions. After getting some practice, Tom went to Los Angeles to give his. Good luck with TV. His hard work soon began to pay off. He signed with the creative artists agency KAA, a top talent agency, and got a small part in the 1981 movie Endless Love, which was based on a book by Scott Spencer. In the same year, he got a great supporting part as a rebellious student at a military school in the movie Taps. This job began to open doors, and Tom began to get more offers for small parts. Then he joined the cast of The Outsiders, a serious movie based on S.E. Hinton's book, and was directed by the famous Francis Ford Coppola. He kept adding to his list of credits with parts in all the right movies. At this point, it was hard to miss how good he could be. At this point in his career, Tom was also seeing known people like Rebecca De Mornay, Patti Salva, and even the famous Cher. Tom didn't let these relationships distract him from his goal of becoming a well-known actress. He got a part in the 1983 movie Risky Business, which showed off his playing skills like never before. They were very important in his success. In the end, Rotten Tomatoes said this was one of his best early films. Things really took off for Tom Cruise after Risky Business. He went on to become one of Hollywood's biggest stars. When he came out in 1985, Tom Cruise was a rising star. Was cast as the lead in Ridley Scott's dark fantasy film Legend. Toy Story. Tom played Jacko the Green, a mysterious green man from the forest. It's interesting that the name Jack would keep coming up again in a few of his later parts, which Tom said helped him remember. Legend wasn't very well received by viewers, but it was nominated for several awards, including the Oscar, the Saturn Award, and the BAFTA. The next year, when Top Gun came out, Tom was already a well-known name. Tom wasn't sure at first if he wanted to join Top Gun, but director Jerry Bruckheimer came up with a creative way to persuade him. Tom was able to go on a ride with Navy planes that had strong G-forces and crazy barrel rolls thanks to Bruckheimer. When Tom fell off the plane and found a payphone, he was already sold. "Count me in, I love it," he said. Tom worked hard to get ready for the part and even learned to ride a motorbike at a shop in El Cajon, California, which made him seem even more like someone who likes to be scared. In a famous scene, he had to fly a real F-14 fighter jet, which made him fall in love with dangerous stunts right away. It wasn't long before Tom started doing stunts without fear. He would go on to become one of Hollywood's most committed action stars. While making the movie, he problems, like having to wear platform shoes in scenes with Kelly McGillis, who was a few inches taller than him. In the most important scene, Tom forgot his line and kissed McGillis instead. The director liked this so much that he kept it in the final cut. The movie Top Gun was a huge hit, making $357 million at the box office, even though it cost $15 million to make. The movie even led a lot of people to apply to join the U.S. Navy's aviation program, and recruiting booths were set up in theaters. During this time, Tom's life changed as well. In 1987, he married actress Mimi Rogers, who introduced him to Scientology, a religion that would have a big impact on his life and relationships in the future. After getting divorced from Rogers in 1990, Tom acted with the great Paul Newman in the movie The Color of Money. Newman stayed warm in his car with an electric heater and a coat while Tom shivered in a t-shirt. This was a lesson that Tom will never forget. You put on your clothes in. You had a great summer? Newman teased, and Tom will remember that moment for years to come. Tom won a Razzie Award for Worst Actor for his role in Cocktail in 1988. But that same year, he worked with Dustin Hoffman on Rain Man, a movie that won a lot of awards even though they weren't sure at first. The script. He even made fun of it and said it would fail, calling it Two Jerks in a Car. He had no idea that his part would win him an Oscar. Tom's act earned him praise from movie greats like Michael Caine, and the movie became a cult classic. Tom had already played the lead role in Born on the 4th of July by 1989. Ron Kovic, a real person who served in Vietnam. This strong part won him a Golden Globe and his first Oscar nomination for Best Actor, proving that he could play a lot of different roles. The rise of Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise became a bigger name in Hollywood every year. Among other things, in 1990, People magazine called him the sexiest man alive. In the same year, he played the lead role in Tony Scott's romantic sports film Days of Thunder. Tom dated a young girl named Nicole Kidman in this movie. The director told Tom about her work in Dead Calm, and he agreed to have her play the love interest for his character. When the thought for Days of Thunder came up, Tom and the great star Paul Newman got to try out one of Rick Hendrick's race cars. It's interesting that they started making the movie before they had a full story. Tom helped write the script for this movie, which was the first one he did. A lot of the scenes were made up on the day of shooting. In one scene where Tom was driving, he had to read his lines from notes stuck to the windscreen, which caused a small accident. They gave Tom a special earpiece that fed him cues to help him during the drive scenes. Tom has always been interested in racing cars and spent a lot of his time watching races on TV. Paul Newman and I often talked about cars while we were working on The Color of Money. Paul once told Tom that he should try racing himself, and Tom did. Paul told Tom to go for it. When they got to the quarter-mile race course, Paul lent Tom a car and let him drive a Nissan GT3. A late-night talk show host named David Letterman said that Tom was driving a more. He got a changed car instead of the one he could have bought. He told Tom that his race team should try it out. The Nissan GT3 could go as fast as 150 miles per hour, but Tom had a hard time getting there. At the Pocono races in the summer of 1988, he did, however, hit speeds of 145 to 146 miles per hour. Tom said, "I was scared to death when he thought about that first race. I believed I was going to pass out. Sometimes you think you can handle it, but it's just a fun game of chess played very quickly." Most of Tom's stunts in Days of Thunder were done by NASCAR driver Greg Sachs. Tom really wanted to do his trick driving, but his insurance wouldn't let him because of rules at work. Rick Hendrick's racing team built the cars that were used in the movie, and some of them were later used in real races. 35 cars were totaled during shooting, which is crazy. The movie got mixed reviews. Some reviewers said the special effects, characters, and dialogue were not realistic. The famous director Quentin Tarantino, on the other hand, really liked it because he thought it was a funny take on racing that shouldn't be taken too seriously. Tom and Nicole fell in love on set and ended up getting married, which was a happy ending. The two people got married on Christmas Eve of that year, and they became one of Hollywood's most famous pairs very quickly. Nicole talked about how she became famous in an interview with Marie Claire. She said, "I felt I became a star only by association. At the Oscars, I thought it was my job to be there for him. I thought it was my duty to look good in a dress and don't talk. Over time, Nicole told Tom that she had forgotten about some of her plans because she was so deeply in love with him. She wanted to have a child with him so badly. Nicole got pregnant a little over a year after they got married, but the pregnancy was ectopic, so they lost their first child. Because of this painful event, the pair thought about taking in. Tom and Nicole adopted a girl named Isabella Jane in 1992. The next year, they got a boy named Connor. Their religious views led them to adopt children, and they kept their family life very private, rarely letting the media see their kids. They were in another movie together in 1992. Together, Ron Howard's Far and Away. In the 1890s, they played Irish people who came to America to find a better life, which led to the famous land run of 1893. Tom's playing career kept going strong, and in 1993 he played the lead role in The Firm, a legal thriller directed by Sidney Pollack and based on the best-selling book by John Grisham. Tom made a deal with Paramount while the movie was being made. Pictures, making sure that the movie cover would only have his name above the title. When Gene Hackman joined the project later, he also wanted his name to be widely displayed, but he was turned down. Asked that his name be taken off the sign completely. Even with all the drama behind the scenes, The Firm was a huge economic success, making $270 million on a budget of $42 million. But what did Cruise do to become such a successful actor? Let's find out. A career. Tom Cruise's projects got bigger and more varied every year. While a lot of actors were still making action films like sports or war dramas, Cruise did something that everyone didn't expect him to do. From 1994 to 1995, he played a vampire in the gothic horror thriller Interview with the Vampire, which was based on Anne Rice's 1976 book of the same name. This high-budget movie had a great group, including Brad Pitt, who was becoming a star. They played the main characters of the story, Lestat de Lioncourt and Louis de Pointillec, together. She said, "I've always loved scary movies and been interested in vampires. This is why Cruise decided to play a vampire. What made the character in Interview with the Vampire so interesting? I knew it would be fun to play that person. But it wasn't easy for Cruise to shoot. The artists who played vampires had to hang from the ceiling for up to 30 minutes while they put on makeup. Their faces swelled up because of the rush of blood to their heads from this pose. Makeup artists improved this look by making their skin look see-through, giving them a ghostly look. They had to go through this process more than once, which made makeup sessions very long. Cruise spent 3.5 hours in the makeup chair each time a day. Plus, Cruise had trouble because he was tall. In some shots, he had to stand on raised platforms to look like the other vampires. On set, there was tension between Cruise and Pitt, which was said to be because Pitt didn't clean up after himself. Cruise said Pitt didn't use deodorant, which is why he smelled bad. You can see the heat. But it's still not clear if this claim is true. To get into character as Lestat, Cruise watched videos of lions biting zebras in the wild to get a sense of how mean his character would be. It's interesting that Johnny Depp was offered the part before Cruise but turned it down. If you're interested, check out our separate biographical movie to learn more about Depp's work and his complicated relationships. The movie did well, even though Anne Rice didn't like how Tom Cruise was cast as Lestat at first. When Rice saw the finished result, he was pleasantly surprised and even told Cruise he was sorry. She bought a 2-page ad in Daily Variety for $740 that praised his work and admitted that she had her doubts before. Interview with the Vampire made $223 million at the box office and was nominated for 2 Oscars, one for Best Art Direction and the other for Best Original Score. Every Christmas since then, Cruise has sent Kirsten Dunst a special coconut cake with white chocolate bits. Dunst loves getting it and nicknames it the cruise cake. She always looks forward to getting it, but it only lasts a day. Cruise was making one of the most important projects of his career by the beginning of 1996. This movie would make him look even more like Ethan Hunt, the top spy in Mission Impossible, in charge of. According to Brian De Palma, it was a new take on the 1966 TV show. Cruise not only played the lead role in the movie, but he was also the first director. Paramount Pictures had the rights to the show for years, but had a hard time making a good movie based on it. Being a fan of the first show since I was a kid, Cruise thought it would be a great idea for his new production company. He was able to convince Paramount to give the movie an amazing budget of $80 million. Before they hired De Palma, Cruise and his production partner, Paula Wagner, worked hard on the idea with director Sidney Pollack. They worked together on Interview with the Vampire, and Cruise was so pleased with De Palma's work that he hired her. He watched all of them when he got home, which is how he finally decided that De Palma was the right choice for Mission Impossible. Cruise thought, "I loved the TV show when I was a kid. The music was great, and I wanted to turn it into a movie that people would remember, with modern people." Making that movie was one of the hardest things I've ever done. To make the writing, the story had to be changed several times because it was so hard. Different writers changed the original and finished episodes, and the dialogue went through a lot of changes before it was finalized. Even with all of these changes, the major story about Ethan Hunt and his team's journey stayed the same. Like an epic and personal odyssey, with a lot at stake for the individuals emotionally. The first part of the movie was filmed in Prague, which wasn't often used in Hollywood films at the time, thanks to De Palma. The production team wanted to cut costs, but Cruise insisted on making a great action movie. He was set on doing most of his stunts, even if they were dangerous. As an example, in one famous scene, Cruise hangs from the ceiling and hits his head on the floor over and over again until he figures out a smart way to keep his balance. He puts coins in his shoes. One of Cruise's plans was to do a clever sleight of hand trick, which he did in a scene that took place in a restaurant with glass walls and a huge screen. The crab tank. At first, De Palma wanted to use a stuntman, but the scene didn't feel real. In the end, he let Cruise do it himself, even though there was a chance that Cruise would die. Mission Impossible came out on May 22, 1996, and made 11 times as much money as the previous record holder. It made more than $8 million, which was more than Terminator 2 Judgment Day. Instead of getting his regular $20 million fee, Cruise chose to get a big cut of the movie's box office earnings. Roger Ebert said this about the movie: "This is a film that exists in an instant, and we have to exist in an instant, and to have fun with it." Even though it was a hit, some actors from the original series didn't like how their roles were reimagined. Because of Mission Impossible, a bunch of spy tales came out, and Cruise kept playing Ethan Hunt. Along with Jerry, Cruise was in the love comedy drama in the same year, Maggie Smith and Renee Zellweger. The movie did well at the box office and got good reviews for its writing and acting. It was nominated for 5 Academy Awards, and Cruise was nominated for 1, this time for Best Actor. The movie was also nominated for 3 Golden Globes, and Cruise won 1. At this point, Cruise was being considered for the lead part in the sci-fi thriller The Matrix, but Keanu Reeves got the part in the end. A British newspaper called Daily Express said that Cruise's marriage to Nicole Kidman was fake to hide the fact that he was gay. In 1998, Cruise won a court case against the paper. Over time, Cruise got into a number of legal fights. After a year, he worked with Kidman again in their third movie together, Stanley Kubrick's Eyes Wide Shut. The Sexy. A cerebral thriller took a long time to make. Kubrick died 6 days after showing Cruise and Kidman the final cut, which was a sad event. The couple stayed in the UK for a long time while the movie was being made, and their kids even picked up English accents. To get ready for their parts, Kubrick had them go through psychoanalysis sessions where he pushed them to face their fears and talk about their real-life problems. Getting married. Kidman said that it was very honest and made them feel like they weren't really themselves when they were acting. Even though they tried, the psychotherapy did not save their marriage. You'll learn more about this later. Paul Thomas Anderson, the director, came to the set one day and gave Cruise a small part as Frank T.J. Mackey in Magnolia. Cruise gladly agreed because he liked Anderson's previous movie, Boogie Nights. The movie came out the same year and got him another Golden Globe and an Oscar mention. The next year, Cruise played Ethan Hunt again in Mission Impossible 2. He did many of the dangerous stunts himself, even though the company told him not to. Worry about his safety. He climbed Dead Horse Point State Park in Moab, Utah, in the first scene, and the scene was left in the movie. He hurt his shoulder when he jumped off a cliff while doing the trick without an insurance net under him. The movie made the most money of any in 2000, and Cruise won the MTV Movie Award for his work on it. Along with Cameron Diaz and Penelope Cruz, Cruise appeared in the romantic thriller Vanilla Sky in 2001. The Spanish movie Abre los Ojos was turned into this English-language movie. Cruise said, "I've been offered a lot of remakes, but I always felt they had too much ties to their society. This story was about everyone, and it needed one more episode." People were shocked to hear at this time that Cruise and Kidman were getting a divorce. The couple didn't say why they broke up, but many people thought it had something to do with Cruise's growing fame, being involved with Scientology. At that point, Cruise was not only a Scientology believer but also the group's most well-known public face. There were rumors that the church's leader, David Miscavige, kept Cruise under tight control, making him feel like he had to rely on the church. Kidman, on the other hand, was a devoted Catholic. Her doctor father had often told her how strange Cruise was. Actions. She tried to join the Church of Scientology for Cruise, even though she loved him very much, but she quit in 1997. There were rumors that she started to get in the way of his routines and questioned the church's power over him. Vanity Fair interviewed Kidman, who said she felt trapped in her marriage and that she was too young for such a long engagement. They had taken in two. She had kids before she was 27 years old. She said it felt like she was in a bubble. Once they got divorced, it was hard for the kids to get along with their mom, so they stayed with Cruise and the church. Kidman said, "Motherhood is about the journey," as she thought back on her life. Being an adopted mother or a biological mother will have its ups and downs. What a kid needs love the most. In 2002, Tom Cruise played the lead role in Steven Spielberg's action-packed science fiction film Minority Report. A story by Philip K. Dick was used to make this movie. Tom worked on set with star Colin Farrell. This movie quickly became one of the biggest hits of 2002, including a nod for an Academy Award and 11 nominations for the Saturn Awards. Tom did well again the next year in the historical movie The Last Samurai, which was directed by Edward Zwick. He was nominated for a Golden Globe in 2004 for his role. After that, he got a lot of praise last year for his part as Vincent in Michael Mann's movie Collateral. The next year, Tom worked with Spielberg again on War of the Worlds, which was based on H.G. Wells's famous book. Working with Spielberg was amazing for Tom, who said it was more of an inspired process than a technical one. He said the early work on this movie was the fastest he had ever seen, he had ever been a part of, and the biggest project he had ever worked on. Spielberg even pulled a joke on Tom while they were filming underwater scenes by playing loud music from his first movie, Jaws, through speakers that were underwater. One movie, War of the Worlds, was nominated for several awards. It was also nominated for the Saturn Award. How people felt about Tom Cruise's surprisingly mixed reactions to his performance. Some praised how intense it was, while others weren't as sure. This led to nominations for both the prestigious Saturn Award and the infamous Golden Raspberry Award. Even though the reviews were mixed, Cruise's charm still drew people in. He won the People's Choice Award for Favorite Male Movie Star that year, and was also given MTV's Generation Award, which made him even more of a fan favorite. But behind the scenes, things were getting tense. Steven Spielberg later said that he wouldn't work with Tom again, mostly because Tom was very devoted to the Church of Scientology. Tom is said to have tried to convert Spielberg to Scientology while they were shooting, which made things awkward between the two. Tom wasn't just trying to convert his friends and family to Scientology, he was also trying to get other famous people to join. Famous people like James. He went out to Packer, David and Victoria Beckham, Jada Pinkett, and Will Smith, among others, to try to get them to help the church grow. Cruise's dedication to Scientology went beyond the movie business. In 2005, he worked hard to get Scientology recognized as a religion in Europe. He met with important leaders like French Interior Minister Nicolas Sarkozy and British Prime Minister Tony Blair to do this. Blair will ask for Scientology to be tax-exempt in the UK. It's no secret that Tom Cruise is a big Scientologist in Hollywood, and he often speaks out in support of the religion's teachings. He is sure that it can change people's lives and says that Scientology helped him get over his problems as a child, having trouble reading. Right to call yourself a Scientologist is an honor that you have to earn, he has said. But not everyone agrees. Leah Remini, an actress who left Scientology in 2013, has said bad things about Cruise. She says he's using his image to look like a hero while pushing Scientology's agenda, which she says is to convert most of the world to its views. He has been in court battles, made controversial public comments, and lived a life that reads like a Hollywood thriller. Scandals that will shock you. It doesn't matter if you agree or disagree with him. You can't help but watch his next movie because you never know what crazy turn his story will take. Tom Cruise's controversies in court cases. Tom Cruise's life has been full of mystery, drama, and unique events on and off the big screen. In May 2001, he was involved in a very bad case. A gay adult film star named Chad Slater said he had an affair with Cruise, which led to a lot of rumors. But Cruise denied everything and took Slater to court, where he won a $10 million settlement. A 2-year court case, Slater finally admitted that he had made up the whole story. Christopher Cruise was also accused by Michael Davis, the owner of Bold magazine, who said there was a tape that proved he was gay because it showed Cruise in a sexual act. Cruise didn't hold back, he went after $100 million in harm. Davis agreed to publicly say that Cruise wasn't in the video and that the actor was in fact straight. This ended the case. Things got worse after that. In October 2012, Cruise sued In Touch and Life and Style magazines for libel after they said bad things about him. Had left his little girl behind. Cruise explained himself by saying that his busy work schedule meant he hadn't seen her in 110 days. The lawsuit was finally settled, but there was still a lot of talk about Cruise's bond with his daughter. Cruise is known for speaking his mind, and in January 2004, he said some harsh things about psychology that made people take notice. He said it was a waste of time and said it would be easier to A meal or a walk might be better for your mental health than treatment ever could be. People were very angry about what he said, especially stars who saw therapists often. His stance came from the fact that he is a member of the Church of Scientology, which is against psychiatrists. In 2005, he criticized actress Brooke Shields in public for taking an antidepressant to deal with postpartum depression. He said that chemical imbalances were not real and that psychology was not science. Shields shot back, saying Cruise should fight aliens and let women decide how to be treated. This made Matt Lauer and I very angry on NBC's Today Show. Later, Cruise apologized to Shields in person as a way to make things right, and she gladly took his apology. In May 2021, Cruise was back in the news when he turned back his 3 Golden Globes to protest the Hollywood foreign press. The association's lack of variety and problems with ethics. But have you ever thought about what it would be like to live on the edge and been interested in the life of one of Hollywood's most well-known stars? Let us dive into the wonderful world of Tom Cruise. Hobbies and giving back. Tom Cruise loves risky sports. Besides just his films, off-screen, he's a thrill junkie who loves to skydive, scuba dive, and even fly a Pitt Special S-2B stunt plane. But he loves flying even more than that. His old World War II P-51 Mustang was first called Montana, Mississippi, but he later changed it to Kiss Me Kate. On a memorable episode of The Late Late Show with James Corden, Cruise took his friend and host James Corden skydiving. They jumped out of a plane together from an amazing 12,000 feet. Tom's job and his personal life are both always changing. He has homes all over Beverly Hills Inn. He can go back and forth between California, Clearwater, Florida, London, and East Grinstead, West Sussex, as he pleases. Tom has become a huge fan of Real Madrid, one of Spain's most famous football teams, because he is friends with football star David Beckham. Tom Cruise. He doesn't just spend his time and money on exciting travels, he also gives a lot of money to good causes. He has given money to the Ashley Flint Fund, the Tsunami Relief Fund, the Diabetes Foundation, and even Hillary Clinton's campaign. Tom is also a dedicated Scientologist who has given a lot of money to the Church of Scientology. In fact, after what happened at 9/11, he co-founded Downtown Medical, a business that helped New York's first responders get clean. Medical professionals and firefighters both said this behavior, which was based on Scientology teachings, was wrong. But his work was noticed in Scientology, and in 2004 David Miscavige, the leader of the church, gave him the famous Scientology Freedom Medal of Valor. 1. The story really stands out. Tom went to a Dairy Queen in Lexington, Virginia, with Steven Spielberg and about 20 other people while they were shooting War of the Worlds. He looked inside and saw a jar with a picture of a young girl named Ashley Flint who had been in a terrible accident and left her family with huge hospital bills. Without giving it a thought, Tom put $5,000 in the jar to help, most likely. He didn't help a stranger in need just this one time. Tom may not be in films as much these days, but when he is, people can't wait for each one. His career has already hit amazing heights. He has made more than $4 billion in North America and more than $10.1 billion around the world, making him one of the successful actors of all time. Though Tom hasn't been in a movie yet. A lot of Marvel movie fans might be shocked to learn that he almost played Iron Man in the 1990s. Back then, Marvel wanted to make Iron Man and Cruise was their first choice. But the project got stuck and Iron Man was never made. Based on how good comic book films were back then, in the end, it might have been a good thing. What do you think about Tom Cruise's interesting life story? Leave your ideas in the comments and don't forget to like and subscribe for more. We'll see you next time.